Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Friday Night Build Show. I'm your host, Ben Estrino, here at the Empower Gaming Studio. Just wanted to make sure my volume wasn't insane. We're here to build another PC tonight. Today we're going to be building for Colin. We did try to start his build actually on Tuesday, and then we found out we had the wrong power supply here. I ordered the power supply, and then we had a bunch of plans over the 4th of July. So we're back finally and ready to build Colin's PC. So if y'all are ready, I'm ready. Let's go ahead and jump right into it, shall we? And later, we might be playing some bar. As long as we get the build done. I want to have this ready for pickup by tomorrow. So this build should take about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Let's go straight to the top-down view here. And we're going to be taking a look at the lineup for today's build. I know we already touched on it on Tuesday, but I'm just going to run through it as a refresher for anybody that's coming in new that's going to join us on the journey of the build. So starting off, we have the CPU, which is an AMD Ryzen 9 7900X 3D, which is 12 cores, 24 threads, and a maximum boost of 5.6 gigahertz. We also have an AM5 Thermalright contact frame. Not necessarily needed for AM5, but we have it for this one. It's not a necessity in any way. It is a little bit, it keeps the CPU cleaner, meaning when you apply the thermal paste, it doesn't like leak down to the sides, so it just keeps it clean. That's why I like to use them. The thermal paste we're going to be using is the Arctic MX6, which is going to be included with the Arctic Liquid Freezer 3, which has that AMD offset mounting for the AM5 CPU, hovering or centering on the hotspot of the AM5 CPU. And that's going to be in black, so there's no RGB planned for this build outside of what's on the motherboard. And if there is anything on the graphics card, which I don't think there is, there might be a PNY that lights up logo, but it's just going to be an LED of white, I'm assuming, if that lights up, and I don't think this one does. Talking about the motherboard, the Asus ROG Strix B650EF Gaming Wi-Fi. We were going for mostly functionality. We wanted as many USB-C connections as we could on the board, as well as the case, I believe, has USB-C as well. But that was the important thing, was the connections on the back. The actual usage of the board was important, so that's why we went with this board. It has a lot of different options on the back, including, I think, 2 or even 3 USB-C ports. There's plenty of ports on the back of this. So that's why we chose this motherboard specifically. 64 gigabytes of DDR5. Wow, I need some more caffeine still. DDR5, 6000 megahertz at CL30, and this is the Flare X5 by G.Skill. This is a great kit. There's 232 gig sticks in here. Super solid RAM, especially for the AMD Expo certified lineup. We have 2 4TB M.2 NVMe SSDs, because originally we were trying to get 8 terabytes, but the cost of an 8 terabyte versus 2 4 terabytes, it makes better sense to put 2 4 terabytes in there. So we got the storage size for a better price by going 2 4 terabytes. Next up is the graphics card, which is the NVIDIA RTX 4080 Super at 16 gigs. GDDR6, 256-bit PCIe 4.0 is what it's going to be running, and this is by PNY, and it is factory OC'd. The power supply, which we had the issue with, is now a 1050 watt. We originally wanted at least 1000 watt for this build, because he may plan on upgrading the graphics card later. So we wanted to make sure we had the right power supply here, which is what held us up originally from starting the build on Tuesday. Or we probably would have had the build done and ready to go. Next up is some case fans. We have some additional 120 millimeter fans that I'm going to throw in there, as well as an additional 140 millimeter for the front, because the case that we have is a Montech black base 903. It's not the max, it's the 903 base, which only has two 140s on the front and a 140 in the rear. But we are going to take and put a third 140 on the front, and then we're also going to add a 120 millimeter or a couple of 120s on the bottom if we can, which is why I grabbed those. So without further ado, it's building time. Let's get started. We're going to go ahead and move some of this out of the way that we're not going to be working with immediately. Such as the graphics card, the AIO, and the power supply and fans. Put those aside, and then we will get the motherboard, the SSD, the contact frame, and then before we move forward with placing the motherboard in the case, we will also get the mounting hardware for the cooler on the board as well. So let's get this opened up and started. How was everybody's Friday? How was everybody's 4th of July? How was it? Okay, look at that. We've got a grand total of 2 USB 3.0 ports on the back of this thing. Let's get zoomed in here. So it's got a ton of USB action back here, and that is the primary reason why we selected this board. It also has onboard video if that is a requirement at some point, but we will be utilizing the graphics card. But if you needed it, it would be there. There's a ton of functionality on this board. That is what we wanted. All right, let's go ahead and get started with the CPU. We're going to drop that into the socket, and then we're going to remove the contact frame. That way the CPU actually protects the pins on the motherboard, and we don't chance damaging those. Here's our Ryzen 9 7900X 3D going in. Triangle is generally to the top left corner. That little triangle there. We are in the sockets. Now we're going to go ahead and get our contact frame by Thermalright installed. So the first thing we're going to do is open this thing up and remove the existing contact frame here. And then we will add the Thermalright contact frame. And again, I'll show you. Covers up the lips here so that it's a lot cleaner. With the stock contact frame removed, we're going to go ahead and add the Thermalright contact frame. Drops into place, and then we have 4 screws included, which we will drop in to secure the contact frame to the back plate. This will keep most of the thermal paste here at the surface level and not allow it to slip down the side of it. CPU. This could be a lot cleaner that way. That is why I primarily like to use them. Primary reason why I like to use them on AMD. Mostly just to keep the CPU's paste in place. Alright, next up is our 64 gigabytes of DDR5, 6000 megahertz RAM by G.Skill. This is the Flare X5. There's 232 gig sticks. We're going to go into slots A2 and B2. Super solid, stable RAM. And the next up, we have not one, but 2 4 terabyte NVMe M.2 SSDs to install. We're going to be placing them in the first and second M.2 slots here. We'll go ahead and get those out of the packaging. And then we'll grab our screwdriver and remove the thermal heatsink, whatever you want to call this thing, block of metal that's supposed to be actively cooling or passively cooling. And we'll get our first SSD installed. One 4 terabyte SSD installed, and always remember to peel these off the thermal pads. Not the thermal pad itself, but the thermal pad. Peel that. So go ahead and place it back over the CPU, and that'll help passively cool by drawing the heat off of the SSD and onto the thermal pad and onto this big block of metal. But unfortunately, I just put it on wrong, and now it's getting sticky. There we go. All right, SSD number 2. A little bit tricky getting it lined up. Hey, what's up, Pat? Get that power supply? Yes. And we are doing the build right now. Power supply, the correct power supply is here. We are doing it. There it is. The 1050 watts. Which, by the way, were the same price. Until you're paying with that M.2 shield. Yeah, I don't know why. Some of them are super easy to. I think this particular track gets pretty loud. I don't know why, but it does. But some motherboards are super easy to put these shields back on, and then there's others that are just a pain in the ass. And this one is one of those pain in the ass ones. Give them that. Yeah. The heck? Ugh. But yeah, sometimes you just got to give it that, a little bit of that. All right, so there we go. We've got our motherboard pretty much set. I just got to check the mounting hardware. I'm pretty sure we have brackets for this for the Arctic Liquid Freezer 3. We'll go ahead and get that unboxed and get the hardware out for the Arctic Liquid Freezer 3. This cooler is beautiful for AMD because it has the offset mounting. I always talk about that because I'm completely in love with this cooler when it comes to AMD. Not so much when it comes to Intel, but is what it is. Not as excited. Mostly excited for AMD. Hardware. Should have a left, a right bracket. And we do. A left and a right bracket. That will go right here and here. Here and here and here and here. Little Miss brings over a box of donuts. Asks me to open it for her. I do not want powdered sugar on my hands. There we are. We've got our brackets installed. So it's ready to receive the block from the AIO. Now we can get the case out. Oh yeah. Hey Adam, thanks for the like over there on Facebook. In my first build, I did the one thing I made fun of people of doing. I left the stupid sticker on the bottom. Yes, you do have to remove those. It is very easy to forget. I know a lot of people who have done that and actually brought their PC to me to troubleshoot to find out why it was overheating. Turns out they left the sticker on the bottom. I have quite a few people that have brought me their PC for that. I do call it out every time I build. I'm like, if you were watching the streams, you would have known. Make sure you check that. All right, the big black Bondtech 903 base. We do have to install one more fan on the front here. We have two, but we can fit up to three. So we're going to slide these down, and we're going to fit the third 140 millimeter fan on here. I'm hoping we easily. Well, let's go ahead and drop the motherboard in there. It's sad because I knew better. Yes, it was. You were too excited. It happens, you know. Some people even know better, just like your situation. I mean, I'll even admit I've done it before too, so. You're not the first, and you won't be the last. We call that a good old Michigan oops. Or oop. Michigan oop. The heat has come to Washington State now, or wow, for the next week in the 90s. Dang. Yeah, we were up there with the heat for quite a few days, actually. About a week. It was pretty hot. You know, normally here in Michigan, we can kind of get away without running AC. But man, the last couple of weeks we've had the AC on. It's been too hot. Yep. Motherboard installed. Nice and fancy. So let's go ahead and tackle this case fan. And then we'll get, or before we do that, let's plug in. Let's do that. Let's plug in the motherboard connections for the front panel. Then we know all of those are done, because I do want to add some fans here at the bottom. And then we'll get these front fans slid down or up or down. And then we'll add our third 140 to this setup on the front. Do that. Yeah, USB 3 here and USB-C up there. We'll go from the top, basically the 24 port run. We'll run this one and this one back up to the top. Nice organized manner. Hole here. Then we've got our HD audio, which we're going to run here. And our front panel power reset. There's an LED switch, which we don't need. We'll peel that one away. Send these through here. And flip. All right, HD audio. Almost always in the bottom left corner. And then usually your USB 3.0, which is this large blue plastic one. Usually somewhere in the center of the board, especially in modern boards today. And then your USB-C, which kind of looks like a really small eye if you're looking right at it. That is usually located in the center of the board as well. But some motherboards are different, so check that. Hey, Wokey! Wokey. Is it okay to pair a Ryzen 7 5800X with a Ryzen or with an RX 7700 XT? Yeah, I think it could run it. I think there is going to be a little bit of a bottleneck with the 5800X, but it'll run it. I mean, it's not going to blow up or anything, so it'll definitely run it. Will there be a bottleneck? Probably, yeah. Which means when I say bottleneck, it's the CPU bottleneck, so your graphics card is going to be only going as fast as your 7700 XT is going. Hey, Ghost Rider, what's up? How are you? I'm doing good, man. How about you? I need your help, please. I have unsolved question. What is your question? Full send the question, sir. But I think the 5800X, going back to your question, Wokey, is it'll be fine. Ghost Rider, can i5 12400F edit 1080 video smoothly? Over some layers without graphics card, I'm having RAM, CPG, Adams, GameX, DDR4. I don't know what RAM that is, but DDR4 3200 megahertz, single stick SSD is an M.2, P3500 gigabyte. So will you be able to edit video smoothly? Yes, you will likely be able to edit 1080p video smoothly with that CPU. Yes. Now, when it comes to the rendering, that's where there's probably going to be a little bit of a wait while you're rendering, depending on the length of the video. And I guess that would be as well when you're editing. I guess it just depends on how many tracks you are editing all at once. If you're doing a super sophisticated edit, yes, it's probably going to lag out. You're going to have some weird stutters and waits and delays. But for the most part, you know, if you're just doing moderate entry-level 1080p video editing, you should be fine. And then when you start doing some bigger stuff, you can always upgrade to a bigger, better, faster CPU. Sorry, I had to yell at the dog. Okay. Well, I hope that, for me, it's okay. If it takes time with the rendering, yeah. That's where it's definitely going to take time. But the only thing I would be worried about is when you are adding a large file and it has to bring it up. It might delay there. Or if you are cutting or trimming or doing any type of modification to it, there might be some delays in your clicks. Only because you really don't have any major video graphics power there. But the CPU should handle it. It'll get it done. It'll do it. And also, really quick, I just thought of something. If you are not going to be using a graphics card and you're planning to use onboard video, then you're going to want the 12400 or the 12400K. You don't get the F series. The F series does not have onboard video. What if you use proxies? I don't know. I wouldn't be able to answer that. I would have to Google that one. But if you're going to use the i5 12400F and you're planning on using the onboard video, the 12400F does not have onboard video. Just want to make sure you heard that. So make sure you get the K or the regular 12400. Yeah. You like the slight red on the board? You doing a red-black cables? No, this is just going to be straight up black. He didn't want any flare or flash in the build. As he's not building it for looks, he's building it for the performance tat. So we are just going pure performance, no RGB, no flare. I think the flashiest thing in this build is the motherboard, and we bought this purely for the functionality because of all the available ports on it on the back and within the price point that we wanted to be at. So what about the 5600G? The 5600G would do a little bit less of a job than the i5 12400, but is another option you could use. And that does have onboard video. The G's in AMD stand for, or you can recognize that as an onboard video chip, or has the APU on it. But the newer AMDs, like the 7000 series that we're working with today here on this one, these have onboard video built into, I think, all of them. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong there. But there is a specific 8500G, I think, out there, Ryzen 5 8500G. That's a very inexpensive processor, and I think that one will do pretty good for you. It's going to force you on a DDR5, which is going to be a little bit more expensive on the RAM. But if you want to stay on a budget, then I would go Intel i5-12600 because that has 10 cores and I think 16 threads. If you go the 12600K, has the onboard video, has extra cores for the video editing that you'd probably want to work with, and then also you could get a board with DDR4, so you can get, you know, save a few bucks on the RAM and go 32 gigs on DDR4 for like 50 bucks. What other platforms are you streaming to besides Kick? So we're streaming to Twitch, Kick, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Or, I'm sorry, X. Still call it. Good evening, Army Vet. Welcome back to the Build Stream. Build Show. I keep calling it Build Stream, but it's Build Show because everybody I talk to, it's called the Build Stream. Or I tell them it's a Build Stream. Okay, got it. Awesome. All right, so we're going to move on with shifting these fans. I really don't know how I'm going to do that other than let's maybe flip it sideways like this. Undo the screws. All right, one has been loosened, removed. I do have a stubby screwdriver, which is really useful for this situation. The long screwdriver, you're bumping into the motherboard now that I put that in there, like a dum-dum. Probably should have dealt with these first. What I'm going to probably do is put them on the inside, not the outside. Actually, let's put the unmatching Thermalright fan that we're installing at the bottom instead. Just got done playing some Walls of the Wizard VR. It's been fun. Nice. I've actually never played that. Never played that before. Something I would like to try, though. Would like to get more into VR as well. I mean, I've played around with VR, but I've never gotten, like, into it. Like, I'm a daily VR driver, you know? Don't really have a daily driver yet. My idea was to build, like, a racing sim with VR, and then maybe a first-person shooter type of VR setup. That is really what I wanted to do, and I just haven't had the time to play around with it. Population 1 is pretty good on VR. Okay. Definitely will check that out. Hoping all of these fit. Pretty sure it does, because the Max comes with 3 140s on the front, doesn't it? If I remember right. Supports 3 140s on the front, or a 420 radiator, even. Oh yeah, it's definitely gonna fit. No question. Jeez. Precisely what I wanted to do. That Population 1 is a VR battle royale. Nice. That's what my wife says. I'm still here watching, letting you know I am just quiet. Yeah, no worries, man. Thanks, Steve, for hanging out. Stubby and not helping. Yes. I get told that a lot, too. So we're in the same boat, Tat. We are in the same boat. Now this pottery. I know. I'm going to stop this cable from. Boy, this is going from great to worse to even more worse. Trying to zip this up tight, that these cables don't bounce around like crazy. Then we gotta find a PWM header for these front fans. Put it in fan 1. That will do. Very nicely. There, now we have 3 140s on the front. The way it's meant to be. Hey, what's up, Beetle Streaking? Pour some milk on your motherboards to enhance FPS on every game. I would not advise doing that. Does that AIO have any lights? No. Completely blackout build outside of whatever RGB's on the motherboard. So it'll be, and if there is any other lights on the graphics card, which I think this PNY card does not have lights. I do not advise anybody pouring milk on their motherboard. It most likely will not increase your FPS. I don't think... Although if you guys do end up pouring milk on your motherboard, please record it and upload it to YouTube and show us the results. Sharing is caring. I don't think I've ever seen a non-light AIO. Yeah, this is a... This is the Arctic Liquid Cooler, or Liquid Freezer 3. And there's no RGB on the fans, and no RGB on the pump. It's gonna be completely black. Or on the block, I guess you could say. Here's the actual block. It's gonna be blacked out. Just the way it was ordered. Alright, so we do have a couple of fans that we want to add here at the bottom of the case as well. We're going to go ahead and do that. So we have two fans that we're going to mount here at the bottom. Let's get those screws out from the hardware. We should have it here. I hope. Because the Max does include it. This one does not, so okay, I've got get them. These bottom fans are going to be intake. Does the case of a solid glass panel? Yes. As a side glass panel, yes, that is correct. So you could put lights in here if you wanted to. But it's just going to be a blacked out build. If you wanted just a basic build with all the performance is what we were working with. We weren't trying to go for looks. We were just trying to go for performance. Might as well call it a Batman build. Oh, we call it a blacked out build. What we end up calling it. Because it's blacked out. There's no lights. Or there shouldn't be any. That is by design. There's actually people out there that want the blacked out builds too, you know? No lights. I know we're just looking at the top here. I'm just getting these fans mounted really quick. And I'll flip it back over for us. Need 4 more screws for all 4 in here. Moment. Black and yellow cables would kind of be dope. Yeah, I think they would be. Hold on, I gotta give the little miss a hug and a kiss goodnight. One moment. All right, we're back. Let's see here. Battle streaking over on YouTube. Can you combine a Ryzen 5 5500 and a 1660 Super and a B450 DS3H Wi-Fi with a Thermaltake 500 watt power supply and 16 gigs of RAM? Yes, definitely could do that. It'd be a nice little budget build. Although, with the 1660 Super, if it's anything more than $100, scratch the 1660 Super and just go with an RX 6600, 8 gigs RAM, 8 gigs of VRAM. That'll be a much better card for that system. Would literally be able to play any 1080p game out there on an RX 6600 and dabble with some 2K if you wanted to. And the AIO with the circle LCD screen showing the bat signal. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. I think you're thinking of the NZXT or the Corsair AIOs with the screen on it, the circle one. I was 100 on eBay. I paid for. Yeah, that's a good deal. As long as it's nothing more than $100 right now. 1660 Supers. You can even find them on Marketplace right now for like 80 bucks or less. I mean, it's an older card now, and it's got 6 gigs of VRAM, and 8 gigs is basically the base now. But yeah, black, yellow, with some accent lighting would be pretty cool in this, yeah. I agree with you. Would be pretty dope. Alright. Now, we've got those bottom fans installed, is what I was trying to say. We're going to go ahead and put the radiator in at the top. Actually, before I do that, 2 things I want to plug in, 3 things I want to plug in. One are the EPS cables in the top corner here, right here. We want to get these plugged in. We want to get the CPU fan header, the pump header, and the VRM fan header plugged in. And then we also want to get these case fans at the bottom and this top fan, or I'm sorry, rear fan plugged in. Because if we don't do it now, after we put the radiator in, it's going to be a bigger pain in the butt. And I don't like bigger pains in the butts. Like least path of resistance. Yep. So let's get the power supply EPS cables out, and we'll get that plugged in as well. On the Thermaltake 1050 watt 80 plus gold beast of a power supply, and we want 1000 plus for this build because he might be upgrading later. So I know a little overkill for this particular build, but that was intentional. We always do that with our builds here. Makes it easier for upgrading later for just a few more dollars. Did the cold plate for the CPU come with the AIO? No, this was in Thermaltake's AM5 contact frame. That is not included with the cooler, no. That is by Thermalright, sorry. Thermalright. The AM5 Thermalright contact frame for AM5. I think they're like $7. They're not really needed for AMD, but it does help keep the thermal paste from getting down the side of the CPU, so it keeps it a little cleaner. So I like that. I do like that feature. Okay, here's EPS cables. And then we're going to get one more. There we go. Now we've got our EPS cables plugged in. And the next thing we want to do is plug in our VRM slash CPU radiator fan slash pump cable, which is going to plug to the header, plug into the header of the AIO block. Hey, Hilly MB. Hilly MF Billy. Digging it so far, man. Didn't get the notification right away, but it's looking awesome. Yeah, it's coming along, man. It's coming along. We are getting there. So if you are building with this one and you're using the fan, VRM, and the pump, the fan is going to be your CPU fan header. The pump is going to be your pump header. And the VRM fan, connection, I always just put for the plug it into the CPU opt, OPT connection. CPU fan. And then pump goes to the AIO pump header. And then VRM goes to CPU opt. CPU opt, or system fan 1, 2, 3, whatever. Contact, not contract. Yeah, I've seen something about how the CPUs are held down and it bends the CPU over time, and that was the purpose of them. Yeah, the idea, the purpose of them is not keep them, not to keep them from bending, but But yeah, that is what it's doing. It's keeping it from bending. The purpose of it is to actually make it so that it's as flat as possible, so that the contact from the top of the CPU or the HIS to the copper block is as flat as possible. Because the better contact you have between the HIS or the top of the CPU and the copper, the better cooling you're going to have. So the flatter, the better. That's the idea. The bending, that's not any type of like physical damage or anything. That's just more of keep it flat, you keep it cool type of idea or mentality. Flat and cool. And that's mostly a problem with Intel, less of a problem with AMD. At least I don't think it's ever going to be a problem with AMD on this socket. Back. Trim the ties. One of the reasons I'm watching is you give good advice. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I try, Steve. What I'm here for. I try to give as good, honest, accurate advice as possible. And if my advice is not accurate, I would surely hope one of you would step in and say, hey, Ben, shut up, you're wrong. Because if I'm wrong, I want to know I'm wrong. My PSU is certified 80 plus. So my card has less gigabytes. Yes, it has 6. So the GTX 1660 Super will have 6 gigabytes of GDDR6. But there were some GDDR5 cards that were made in the 1660 series. So GDDR6 would be better, a little bit higher bandwidth. But 6 gigabytes is almost not enough today in 2024 when it comes to some of the AAA titles. You definitely still run it, but a little bit better future proofing would have been going 8 gigs of VRAM. That's all. Should do a poll for the end of the build. How many zip ties will be used at the end? Yeah, there's builds where I use a ton of zip ties, okay? And then there's builds where I use 2. And it's just, it all depends on the cable management, you know, provided by the case. That's really what it comes down to. But this cable right here, I wish would be more of a sleeve thing, straight from Arctic. I wish they'd have a sleeve on this of some sort, because it just looks so messy if you don't zip tie it up. So I like to tie it up, keep it clean. All right, let's go ahead and mount this radiator to the top. We are ready for that. We are ready for the great mounting. That sounds terrible. The great mounting of 2024 actually is not the biggest radiator that I've mounted in 2024. That also sounds terrible. Don't repeat that or quote it. I may have made an oopsie. These front fans definitely have to go on the inside, the outside of the case, or this is not going to fit. So, what that means here is that by me being an idiot and putting these on the front, thinking I was giving it more airflow on the front, I didn't think of the AIO has to mount here. And it cannot because the fan's here. So, me and my glorious wisdom does stupid stuff like this all the time. So here we are, we're gonna move the fans around back to the front, although we had to move them anyway regardless, but not for a second time. This is extra, only because I'm special. And we got it. Lovely. All right. Keep it going. This is why I don't zip tie the back up yet. One of the last things you do. The rear cable management happens to the best of us. Oh, I do stuff like this all the time. I'm trying to do something better. If I put the fans on the inside, that means there's more gap on the front for it to pull air in. Was the idea behind it. So it would have been better if it fit. I didn't think of it. Should have thought of it. Didn't think of it. So here we are. But the further the fan is away from, say, the mesh, the more air it's going to be able to draw in. The closer it is to the mesh, the harder it is for that air to pull through. Kind of like a little bit of a air buffer between the fan and the mesh. Let's see here. That's what I could afford, man. Yeah, no worries, man. Don't worry about it, man. Nobody ever frowns here on anybody building a PC. I know I put together builds at $300 or something like that, so nobody is judging anybody here by the price of their build. All builds are welcomed. So don't ever feel bad like, oh, I got a 750 Ti. 750 Ti still runs today. If it runs and it makes you happy, I'm cool with it. All right, here we go. We are putting the fans in the correct locations so that they fit. The radiator fits anyway. And y'all can mark this on your calendar that today was the day you witnessed Ben be special live on stream. His infinite wisdom around PC building. Oh, I've done so many stupid things on stream. But it's funny. It's fun. Oh, let's roll this to the side, like so. That way we can get in here. And we will have to probably use that stubby screwdriver after all, Tatman. Or Tat. Tat. Oh, geez. Bro, just... want to make sure I've got it lined up. Have you ever had someone ship you their PC to transplant it to another case? Something very close. They drove it to me, but they drove like, I think it was around 5 hours for me to do it, to work on it. So I've had people drive up to 5 hours. But yes, you could ship your PC here. And I could do the transplant if you needed me to. Gonna fight with these screws. I think we're gonna get away without having to use the stubby screwdriver. You do a flat rate or charge by the hour. It's a flat rate. Because a build can take 1 hour, a build can take 2 hours. There's some builds that'll take 3 hours, and then there's others, aka open loop builds, that'll take a week or less, depending on what we're doing to it. But there's a flat rate. So the standard build fee with Windows installed, drivers, BIOS, and all that, I charge $150 for the standard build fee. If you're supplying all the parts. That'll warranty the work. It will not warranty the parts. If you're looking for a warranty on the parts as well, then you'd have to basically just order the whole build through me. And then we can get a 2-year warranty assigned to the build as well. There we go. We've corrected the fans. Now we're going to put the radiator in. Oh, God, it fits. I'm just kidding, it'll fit. There we go, much better. Now we can install a radiator. I'm just getting these screws ready to receive. They lift. That was weird. Go. Got that. Now we just gotta add the rest of the screws. For budget builds, Steve Anderson over on the YouTube. For budget builds, I love the RX 6600 card. Yeah, it's one of my all-time favorite budget cards to work with today, this year so far, is the RX 6600. Followed by, very closely, the RTX 3060, which is available right now at like $220. You can find them $220 to $250. But yes, the RX 6600 is a badass card. Hey, what's up, Shadow Clan? Welcome to the build show, sir. Over on the YouTube chat. Would need to transfer money to you to get the PC case bought for the transplant. Probably, yeah, that would definitely be cheaper on, because I could just order it here and have it shipped here, and I can get free shipping on that purchase of the case. Hey, what's up, Shadow Clan? Is this the Air 903 case? Yes, this is the Air 903 base. So it is the base. It comes in two different versions of it, the base and then the max. The 903 max includes addressable RGB fans, 3 140mm fans on the front, and then a 140mm black fan on the back. The base only includes 2 140mm on the front, and then a 140mm in the back. They're all black, no RGB. And you also don't get the benefit of the max that includes an addressable RGB and PWM header, or a PWM hub for your fans. The max includes it, the base does not. That is another benefit that you get. So the max is probably the better value, but we didn't need the RGB for this build. We were trying to go all black on this. Blacked out. For this particular build. Wait, how much to build a PC from you? It's $150 for the labor if you send me the parts. So flat fee of $150 plus if you don't have a license key with Windows and you want me to license it, it's $20 for a license key. So it would be, you know, with the license key, $170 total, and that'll be the PC built, Windows installed, your BIOS is up to date completely, your fan curves are set, your XMP profile or AMD Expo profile is set, and we've also completed the build and done all the battle testing that we do on every single one of our builds, which is benchmarking, make sure it's all running 100%, not overheating, etc. None of the parts are lemons. We go through all the tests. We test the RAM, the CPU, the graphics card, and then we do a marathon test, which basically just runs it for hours, just to make sure it stays, you know, cool for a long haul. That's what we charge. It's different if you are buying the PC through us, because we're also including a warranty, which means if there's a damaged part, we're going to ship you a brand new part or replacement part if there isn't a new one available. Regardless, we will service the PC at our cost at that point. So, better value if you were to build the whole thing through us because of the warranty and the protection for 2 years. And if you're local, it's even easier because you can just drop it off if you ever had a problem with it and you know where I am. There we are. We've got the AIO installed. And we've got the fans in the right place. I'm gonna just feed this right through here. Remind me to plug these front fans in before we put that graphics card in. I have a feeling I'm gonna forget. Let's block the CPU, and then honestly, it's a power supply, those front fans, and then a graphics card. And we're firing this bad boy up, seeing if it posts. Not too bad. What are we at? An hour and 23 minutes? I was close. A little off, but close. Alright. Let's peel this sucker off. We're going to get it like so. Plug this guy in. 3. This is what's going to the CPU fan header, the AIO pump header, and the CPU opt for the VRM. Pump, radiator fans, the VRM fan. And peel the bottom. Always peel that guy. Hey, Tet. Hey. And then we're going to apply some thermal paste, which we're going to be using the MX6 from Arctic, which is included with this cooler. Great stuff. It'll last a good year or so. If it's ran hard, you're going to want to replace it in a year, but Just check the temps at that point. And you'll know, if the temps are getting higher and higher and higher over time, you'll know, well, it's probably time to replace the thermal paste. That's usually the sign. My local shop charges $175 just to build one with every part provided by the client. Yeah, I mean, I'm $150, and then if you want a license, it's $20 for a Windows license, Windows 10 or 11, same price. To replace the thermal yearly, you don't necessarily need to do it every year. Just keep an eye on it when it gets to be about the year mark, and if it's hotter than when you got it at an idle, then you know the thermal paste is not as efficient. And if you need to replace it, I'm here, and I can just do it in 10 minutes. Or if you know somebody up there that could do it. But this would be the important step to follow if you are replacing the thermal paste. I just do the X pattern, but to remove the thermal paste, just a paper towel, and if you need, it would be this stuff here. Not sure if you can read it or not, but this 99% is good because it evaporates almost instantly. But just dab it on the paper towel just a little bit and wipe it down if you really think you need that. That's if it's really dry and stuck up. Shouldn't be. It'd be easy enough just to wipe it off with a paper towel, a dry one, and it should come off. And then you apply your new thermal paste and then put the block back on following this video, which you'll have on YouTube. Hey, what's up, Zach? Beyond all reason, I will jump on bar after the stream here, after I get this rolling, because I'm trying to have this ready for Mr. Cullen tomorrow. So we should have this build ready to go tomorrow. So one screw here lined up with the peg, and then the second one here on the right side. It will take a little bit of force depending on how much thread you did on the other side. I'm going to actually back this side off a little bit. I put too much, I backed it off too far. So again, the slightest turn, just enough to bite. And then a little bit of pressure. Bam. I'm struggling with this. Oh my gosh. I forgot how big of a pain in the butt this can be sometimes. There's times where I'm installing this cooler and it's easy. And then there's times where it's doing this, where it's just not cooperating. I get one turn. You gotta apply some pressure there. Okay, hold on. Now we're getting pissed off. So if there is ever one complaint with this Arctic cooler, it is this mounting. And how big of a pain in the ass sometimes it is. Did you guys see what I just had to go through to get this thing mounted? And I'll show you what I did as a trick if anybody else needs to do this. They have trouble with this. So I couldn't get one side to bite. Just the slightest spin on one side. The other side wouldn't bite. Hey, Shadow Clan. Thanks for the follow over on Twitch. Gotcha. Oh, basic stuff. Gotcha, gotcha. No, not terrible to do that. Yeah, no, it's not. Except for with this cooler. But I'll show you the trick. So, to get it, I actually loosened the stud here. The bottom and the top studs for the actual bracket, which allowed it to get closer. And then I just tightened them back up here. But that is the biggest complaint I have with this cooler. Other than that, it is probably the #1 cooler out there for AMD. I'd say it's probably #1. There we go. There's that, and then the top of it, which is kind of like the whole Tony Stark thing. Just take this, a little magnetic thing, and it has the fan on it built into it, the VRM fan, and it just locks in, the pins touch, and it is now powered, ready to go. Cool. We've got the AIO installed now, ready to go. The last thing we got to do is a power supply, the front fan, plug those back in, and install a graphics card. And just a little bit of cable management on the backside. Nothing too crazy that we have to do here. I'm going to go ahead and just take care of these rear fans right now. We're on the subject. Front fans, I'm sorry. Question, is a 27-inch 240 Hz 1080p monitor too big for 1080p? No. No, it's not. 27 inch is not too big. I think 32 inch starts to be too big for 1080p. That's where you start really noticing the stretch on it. But 27 inches is fine. I've played 27 1080p for the longest time, and it was still beautiful. My local shop, oh yeah, we already covered that. Makes a lot of sense. Some process for a lot of things I've worked on, yeah. They all have their quirks. The price we pay for the best cooler available, basically, is the installation process, which is less to be desired. I think that's something Gamers Nexus actually covered as well, is the installation process, and then also they could even improve the cooler that's already one of the better coolers by changing the way it mounts. Okay. We do still have to plug in the bottom fans. Ah, wasn't wrong the first time. There we go. Alright, do we do the power supply or the graphics card? Let's do the power supply. May as well. We're going to have 24 pins and the 16-pin 12-volt high power cable that we're going to deal with. nearly finished with it. Almost there. Well, go ahead and just dump the card in here, plug the cable in, and we'll show off the modularness of this power supply. I believe it's cheap. And here is our PNY NVIDIA RTX 4080 Super factory OC. Factory seal too. Would you suggest a 7900 XTX or a 4080 Super? Sorry, I missed that comment, Shadow. Not sure I missed that. The 4080 Super, so it depends on if you're streaming or not. If you're streaming, go with the NVIDIA card. If you're not, go with AMD. I think the AMD card will do better with just raw gaming. And the RTX 4080 Super will be stronger for streaming. So it has its use case. But both are really strong cards, regardless. Hey, Rose. What's up? Bigger card than I thought. So I need to remove the third bracket. PC, yes, PCs for days. Why all the black? Why no RGB? Colin wanted just a blackout build. He didn't want to invest in any type of RGB, even though, you know, the case fans would have been an extra $20 or so, not something super crazy. It would have been a probably $20 difference for the RGB version of the cooler. But looks like we might have some lights here on the PNY lights on the motherboard itself, but that's about it. The satisfying peels, yes. I just do so many of them. You know, the satisfaction is just numb now. It's less satisfying after you do so many of them. I mean, it's gonna look pretty badass just blacked out. Computer enthusiasts will still love this build. No RGB and all. So these cables and these tubes match pretty well. And I like that about the Thermaltake and the Arctic liquid freezers. We do have a bracket, which I will probably go back and install here after the stream. The bracket's just going to be along the motherboard, and it's going to be assisting the weight of the graphics card on this end of the card. So we will go back and do that, probably after the build stream. At this point, I've already got the card in, and I forgot about it. Oops. So let's do the power supply and cable management, and we'll fire it up for the first time. We'll see if Ben can still build a computer properly. See if Ben still has it. Of course he does. Hey, Ozo. What's up? Turn over the bars. Turn over the bars? What do you mean? What are you talking about? Turn over the bars. The bars? What bars? I'm lost. What bars did you want me to turn over? I'm not holding any bars hostage, if that's what you're saying. All right, so now that we've got the power supply installed, we can finish up the cable management side and fire this bad boy up. Sounds good, huh? Colin's like, finally. Sorry about the robot moment if you heard that. That is the, how special, or that is my PC in dire need of an upgrade. Every once in a while I get that. And I'm pretty sure it's the motherboard. Because the audio on my computer crashes all the time now. Especially when I switch devices. From like a headset to speakers, crash. Kind of pathetic. PC builder with a PC that crashes. That's a funny one. I've just been so busy lately, I just haven't had time to deal with it. Nor do I really want to put the time in to deal with it. I just deal with it by restarting it when it gets bad. There we go. Is that clean enough cable management? That's a valid point there. I would say that that's sound, but I've had components not work out of the box before, and hold on. There's more conversation going on. I'm patient rather than have everything in the right place. I would say I'm patient. Okay, I'm just trying to figure out what comment you were responding to, some giant idiot, because I'm a giant idiot. I would say that that's sound, but I've had components not work out of the box before and pass the return date. Let's test everything you get, even if you intend to let them sit in a box. Yes, that is a valid point. I agree with that as well. What do you think of this cable management? Nice and clean? We can flip it over and see the other side too. Nice and clean. Yeah. Look at this back panel. Look at all that. USBs for days, and we can add some expansion cards down here if you need more. Take that risk. Personally, I would buy a pre-built and let the evil corporate like Empower Gaming. I'm not evil corporate. I don't even have a corporate. I'm not corporate. Not yet. I'm LLC. Not a corporation yet. To be fair. You can't call me corporation yet. Looks very clean. I like it. Very minimalist, and that was the idea for sure. Perfect. Glad we nailed that one, at least. All right. Go ahead and throw the back panel on. 2 screws from the back. Remove that back panel if you ever need to get back in here. And they're thumb screws, so it's toolless entry. Front panel, this is where most of your dust is going to collect. This is just removable. Again, it's another toolless entry. Has a little lip at the top, and then drops. Sorry. I have to flip it around because I'm an idiot. Has a little lip at the top, and it drops in, and it magnetically holds it on. It's very easy to remove. Take it outside, blow it off, clean the dust off. Same thing with the top. The magnetic dust filter that you can peel off, clean. Although this should have the least amount of dust because this is your exhaust. So the most majority of the dust is going to be on the front. Excuse me. Let me choke on my dry throat. And I will install this, which is the GPU bracket, but I'll just do it after the stream while we're doing other stuff. Or after we're doing other stuff. Let me clean up some hardware and let's fire it up. It's go time. And I will give us a side view here in just a moment. There's a box hovering over this keyboard, and this keyboard has a little power button here. You can shut down the stream PC from the keyboard. That's probably not good. We can increase the brightness for this one. That way we can see it. And who's ready to push this power button? At least you'll be able to see the rear fan move. It does look good. Yeah, it's got that black vibe to it, like sneaky powerful. Let's do this. Would help if I had the switch on the back of the power supply on. There, you could get a little idea of how much air is being blown out the back. Get a little wind indicator back here. I could be in the back going, whoa! I'm actually holding on right here. Blown away. Throw me, twist the camera sideways, and then I just go like this. Still waiting for a post, but this is DDR5. Generally, it does take a moment, but that's all the RGB that we really have in the system. Is the post light up here at the top corner, the PNY, which I was wrong, it does have lights on it, but that's okay, and the RGB on the motherboard. So that's really all the RGB we get in the build. The rest of it is painted black. And we do have a post. New CPU installed, warning us about the FTPM PSP NV corrupted or the structure changed. Well, it changed because we put a new CPU in it. First time it ever booted. That's not bad at all. Yes, I agree. Yeah, that fan kicks. When we first turn it on and it's going through what we call the memory training or the RAM training, it is going to run all the fans at 100%. So it calmed down, as you can see, as we posted to the BIOS, it calmed down. And even more so once we get Windows installed and get the BIOS updated, I'll be able to adjust these fan curves, and those are fully controllable. So we can say, if it's too loud, you can hit a silent button on the Asus Armory Crate. Just tell all the fans to be silent, and they'll slow down. Yeah, so it's one click, you can change all the fans. But I'm going to set it for AI to manage it based on the temperature of the graphics card and the CPU. So as those get hotter, the fans will ramp up faster. But if you're not really using either of those, it's going to be pretty much dead silent. But it has the fan power to move that air when it needs it. I paid for all the fans. I'm going to use all the fans. I 100% agree with you. I do. I use all my fans. They're all here. No, I'm just kidding. I know it's a lame dad joke. Hard point to argue. Full power. Maximum fan. Feel like I'm playing Crysis. Maximum speed. Maximum strength. Maximum armor. Maximum stealth. Remember that game? The game that everybody said would cripple computers for 10 years, and it actually pretty much did. Put those computers at their knees. That was one of those what a game. Sorry, you're looking at my cleaning station over here with the Windex and all the towels and stuff. Center it up a little bit better. One that will break PCs again. Yeah, I think that would be, what is this? What's that? What's the name of the one that just came out that was a BR? Well, not really a BR, but it was kind of like Escape from Tarkov, but it was super demanding. That one is insane. It takes a 4090 to get like 150 frames on it. At least I don't know the difference between, since the performance up to Gray Zone, thank you. It's on the top of my head. Gray Zone is demanding. But it's only because I think the game is not very efficient with the hardware yet. So the developers will probably optimize it over time. They especially leaned on their developer hardware, you can tell, because it runs well on like a 4090, 4080, but really anything less, you can see the performance just dip. Because they built the game probably on those cards, and that's what they were testing with. And then once it got released to larger portions and different systems, they started going through optimizations, and there's probably a lot more room for optimization on that title. It happens. I think that one's on, that one is on the, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's on the Unreal Engine 5. I think that's what that was built on. And that's a pretty efficient engine as it is, but there's probably tons of things they can do, like LOD, line of sight, detail. So basically, if it's something far away, take the detail away until you get closer to it, or zoom in on it. That type of technology still needs to be used today. But here we go. We got two M.2s. We've got the 65, is what it's reporting, 65 gigs of RAM, or actually 65,536 megabytes, 65,536 megabytes. And we've also got our AMD Ryzen 9, of course, checking in. If it wasn't checking in, it wouldn't have posted. 7900X 3D with 12 cores, and our B650EF. So we're good to go. We're going to move on to Windows install, do the BIOS update, get all the rest of the drivers installed, go through some battle testing, and I should have this ready for pickup sometime tomorrow. So just be on the lookout for an email for that. Ready for pickup. Or just give me a call every 5 minutes and say, Ben, is it ready yet? Ben, is it ready yet? Ben, is it ready? It's usually what happens. The fun stuff. Yes, the fun stuff sounds good. Yes. So should be ready tomorrow for pickup, and I'll be here probably up until the afternoon. When I say afternoon, I mean like late, like evening, afternoonish time is when I do need to take off for the weekend. So I will definitely make sure you have plenty of time to drive here if you are planning to come tomorrow. Cool. Tomorrow or Monday for sure. Awesome. 8 p.m. afternoon. Yeah, that's my, yeah. This is the afternoon right now for me, actually. No, it's not, but this is just the continued day. When the phones don't ring and I don't have to deal with tickets and emails and things like that. All right, guys. I'm all set. Have a good night. Thank you, everybody, for joining the stream and hanging out. And I hope I've asked everybody's questions. If I missed any, definitely feel free to email me those questions if I did miss anything. And or just shoot me a message on one of the platforms or comment on the video. All right, guys. Have a good night. We will have another, I forgot to say this, but we will have another build stream probably Monday or Tuesday night for another build. It's going to be more of a budget build as well. So looking forward to getting that one built for somebody special. All right, guys, have a good night. Have a good weekend. If I didn't say it to you before, happy 4th of July. And I'll see you next time. Bye. Super warm out and wet out. Stay safe. Yes. Good night. Have a great weekend, friends. Have a good weekend.